Hi Praise family. I'm going for a little walk and I wondered if you wanted to come along with me. A few weeks ago I saw a post on Facebook of a young lady who apparently had been deep in the occult and had found Christ. The discourse was about receiving hurtful comments from the Christian community, critical comments about that person's Christian walk. I said I wouldn't do a video about this, but I think it's important. I want us to stop and think about our viewpoints and how we speak to others, especially those who we think are not walking the way that they should walk as Christians. As I am walking on the Sabbath out in nature, urbanized nature, I remember last year when my sister and I attended our high school reunion, and our high school is a boarding school. It's not a Seventh-day Adventist Christian school, it's an Anglican school. We went from Thursday and would have been spending the weekend until Sunday, like a normal boarding weekend. We weren't sure what we were going to do on the Sabbath, thought that we would spend a quiet day indoors. Of course, we were dropped off on Thursday, so we didn't have any vehicle to go anywhere. We were reliving our high school experience. The Sabbath morning, we decided that we were going to take a walk. We didn't plan to go to church because we know the church was a distance away from the school. While we were walking, we got carried away talking, admiring nature. We heard singing and we said, oh, if we hear singing, if we're not tired, we'll just keep walking, see where we will end up. We walked and walked and walked, and lo and behold, we got to the church. We had not set up to go to church, so we were in our walking gear, t-shirt and sweatpants and sneakers. But we were so excited and happy. We decided that we were just going to go in and participate in the Sabbath school. The first thing I noticed was that people were staring at us, and one lady who was sitting beside me, she handed me the quarterly and told me that we're studying from this book. I didn't think much of it, but we participated in the Sabbath school like members of a church would. Afterwards, we decided, let's see if we can stay for divine hour. It came time for the welcome. The person who was doing the welcome started on the side that my sister and I were standing on to welcome the folks. We were all standing, but when he got to us, he skipped over us and went over to the other side and welcomed the people, and then started to welcome us last. In introducing myself, I had said that we were at the Hampton reunion and that I'm very familiar with this church because when I was a student at Hampton, when they allowed us to go to church, I attended this church. Clearly, I must be a Seventh-day Adventist, and if I'm participating in the Sabbath school from the little book that they're studying from, the quarterly, must have some. Let's not judge what I have. My sister's introduction of herself, she said the same thing, that she used to come to this church when they allowed her to come to church from the school. It was a boarding school. And she also said that we were at the reunion and we were taking a walk. Somebody said nothing is wrong with the walk on the Sabbath day. She also said she was a member of a Seventh-day Adventist church. In the welcome, which we were left for last because we were not attired appropriately for this church setting. The man talked about Jews and Gentiles and how Gentiles are welcome to even the Adventists. While we are standing there, I was taken aback by this welcome as a member of the church. Somebody else went up the consecratory prayer. That person was praying for the heathens who have come to church today, and God knows why they came to church today, for conversion. There must be a reason you came to church today. And I thought, well, you know God never sent me to preach the sermon here today. But I also thought, I'm always in need of conversion, because a Christian is always on the journey of transformation. I usually speak in English because the viewership is diverse and wide, but I want to talk to you Jamaican church members. I feel like your viewpoint and your opinions about people's Christian walk and the state of their Christianity need some education, especially when it comes to people my sister and I were backslidden members of this church. It just happened that the Holy Spirit lead us to walk to this church this morning. Do you think that in our backslidden state, having received such a welcome, that we would come back? That we would be inspired to want to come back to any church? To be singled out as bad Adventists? Answer me good.
Are you popular, man?
Some days. Some days I'm popular, some days not so much.
Right.
You too. The reason I'm telling that story is to give us pause when we see people struggling on their Christian journeys. It is not for us to pass judgment and pass negative remarks that seek to put ourselves up on a pedestal and put them down below us. That's not how we edify believers in God's church. As seasoned members, we need to do better. We need to give people grace, and we need to utter words that inspire and encourage those who are struggling in the fold. You never know. Words seasoned with salt and grace are better than words of condemnation and destruction. I think about David. He was the king. He was anointed while Saul was still king by Samuel. When Samuel came to that house of Jesse, and Jesse paraded the sons before Samuel. If Samuel wasn't listening carefully to God, he would have been deceived. Not one of those well-dressed sons of Jesse would have been the king. It turns out that none of those well-groomed men were the selected king. Samuel had to ask Jesse, "You don't have any more sons?" And Jesse said, "Yeah, you have one little one there, no, but in I feel you're not really qualified. And he's not kingly material." Samuel said, "Can't come to the scene." The king said, "David did out there 10 sheep and a 3 pieces. I think David did smell good. I think David was clean shaven. No, he was a dirty little frowsy boy. You have got to be frozen if you're out there rolling with beer and lion and a kill lion with your beer." I think that was a well-groomed boy that was selected as king that day. Man looks at the outward appearance, but God looks at the heart. And I don't want you to think that I am condemning standards of practice and saying that people ought to dress anyhow to go into the presence of God. You might be surprised to know the hearts of those who are so attired that they're covering up their sins. It is not for us to judge people's relationship with God based on their outward appearance, because transformation takes time, and transformation comes through the Spirit of God. The Christ didn't come to seek who are already saved. He came to seek and to save the lost. And if that was his mission, that ought to be our mission too. Lost are in need of welcome, a place to belong. When a lost person realizes their condition, they're already beating up themselves, wallowing in guilt and shame and sorrow and great pain. They don't need to come to the church for us to push them down and cast judgment on them and question their salvation. Salvation is of God, not of man. And it is not for us to be judging our fellow men. That's not what it means to correct sinners. Christ, when he met upon the sinner, it broke his heart. And he said not a word of censure. Even though he corrected in love. And you could see in his face compassion and care, not lofty heart to spirit and attitude. And this man never sinned. We have a far way to go as believers of the gospel. The gospel which makes us not ashamed. And if the gospel makes us not ashamed, who are we to make people ashamed of their condition when they come to Christ? Think about the work that we have to do to prostrate ourselves before God so that we can be cleansed and made whole and see our own sinfulness. Remember the publican and the sinner?